What's going on, guys? It's NYPrepper here, and in this video I'm going to do another SHTF Scenarios video. For those of you guys who are new to my channel, I have a series called the SHTF Scenarios, and I have a whole playlist on my YouTube channel. If you go into the playlist section and you click on SHTF Scenarios, you'll see a bunch of different scenarios that I've talked about. And it's good to go through these scenarios if you're a prepper, because our mind is our biggest weapon. It's our most important weapon. So, keeping your mind active and constantly thinking of different scenarios is going to help you become a better prepper. Thinking of different scenarios and different contingencies and how you would handle different situations. That's a big part of prepping. Prepping is not just buying stuff and buying guns and ammo and throwing it in a closet, and then when crap hits the fan, you're just going to go and get your food and that's it. There's a lot more to it, than that. There's planning, there's security, there's tactics. So you got to think of different scenarios, and in this scenario, I'm going to talk about bugging out from your bug out location, all right? What if your bug out location gets compromised and you have to bug out from your bug out location, okay? I don't think a lot of people really think about that, because a lot of people have this romantic idea that they're going to get themselves a very secluded piece of property somewhere in a mountainous area, and that's where they're going to go if all hell breaks loose. They're going to go to this retreat location somewhere in a very rural area, or not even rural, but basically a really wilderness area. And they got their cabin there, and they got all their stuff there. And so a lot of people don't think about, they see the bug out location as like a final destination, basically. They feel that, their bug out location is their main destination if all hell breaks loose, and they don't think about contingencies around that bug out location. So let's say, for example, you spend, $250,000, you get yourself, 20 acres of land, maybe in like Montana or Idaho, in a very secluded area surrounded by national forests. It seems like the perfect location. You have rivers, you have mountains, you have seclusion, you have wild game, you got everything you need to survive, you got all your preps there. But what happens if that location gets compromised for whatever reason? Let's say there's a wildfire. Let's say there's a, volcanic eruption. Okay, right now as we speak, there's wildfires across the western United States. There's all kinds of wildfires going on, and wildfires are always a threat. Even here on the eastern seaboard, or the east coast of the U.S., the eastern United States, we get wildfires here in New York also. So just because you're not in the West doesn't mean you're immune from wildfires. We always get brush fires here and forest fires in upstate New York. Even though we get like on average 40 to 50 inches of rain a year, which is a lot of moisture. But we still get fires, So wildfires, let's say you have this awesome bug out location. It's in the middle of nowhere, and there's a wildfire and it's coming through your area, and you have to bug out of your bug out location. You have to evacuate from your bug out location, all right? Let's say there's a volcanic eruption. There's so many volcanoes, especially in the western United States. You have all kinds of volcanoes. What if there's a volcano nearby and there's ashes and lava flows and, mudslides, and you have to evacuate, Do you have a plan for that? Have you guys thought of that, Everybody sees the bug out location as the final destination, but what if your bug out location gets compromised and you have to evacuate, A lot of guys don't think about those things because they think that, once they get their bug out location squared away, they don't have to worry about anything. But, really SHTF is so dynamic, and you never know what could happen. You could be in the perfect location with the best bug out area, You could be in the middle of nowhere and something can happen that forces you to evacuate. You know, whether it's a wildfire, volcano, you could have flash flooding or flooding, landslides. You could even have marauders and raiders, you know, surround your bug out location, and you have to evacuate because, let's say, a gang of like 50 guys surrounds your bug out property and they try to raid it, and they have you guys surrounded, and you're by yourself or you're with a small group, and they have superiority in terms of firepower and numbers. You know, you're going to probably have to flee in the middle of the night on foot, you know, and where are you going to go? You know, what are you going to do if it's after SHTF, the grid is down, it's a post SHTF world? You know, what's your plan for that? And have you thought about that? So I want to just get you guys to think about that, okay? Think about if you have a bug out location and you go there and then it gets compromised, where else are you going to go? What's your plan? You know, so this could also be said for your bug in location. If, let's say, you know, your resources, your financial resources or whatever constraints you have force you to bug in versus bugging out, and for whatever reason bugging in is the best choice for you, you know, and you have all your preps, you have all your security plans and your tactics, everything is set up at your bug in location, and let's say you have to flee out of that bug, you have to bug out from that bug in location because it gets compromised for some reason. You have all your preps there, all your ammo, all your supplies, all your firearms. What are you going to do? You know, do you have a plan? Do you have things that you can readily grab and go if you need to head out the door quickly? You know, essential supplies that you can throw in your vehicle and run out the door with, you know, or even just a basic backpack, a bug out bag that you can throw on your back and run out the door with. All right, these are things that you should be thinking about because, you know, no building can ever be fully secure from everything, okay? It's just not possible, especially if we're talking about SHTF, which is a very dynamic situation. You can't fully secure your location. Your location can always be taken from you by somebody else, or Mother Nature can destroy it. So you need to be thinking about, what do you do if you have to bug out from your bug out location after SHTF, all right? So here's some tips that I identified and some ideas for you guys to do, so you don't get stuck in a situation where, you know, you're running around with no home and nowhere to go after, let's say, a SHTF. So the first thing is you need to research deliberate and hasty alternate sites, okay? So what that means is that a deliberate site is going to be an area that deliberate means that you've maybe put some gear there or put some supplies there, you know, like kind of like another bug out location basically. So rather than just having one bug out location like everybody else does, like most people do, have 2 or 3 smaller bug out locations that can serve as a backup to the backup, all right? Because you never want to put all your eggs in one basket. You know, if you put all your eggs in one basket and you drop the basket, all the eggs are going to crack, you know? So you don't want to just fully rely on one bug out location. You want to have alternate bug out locations. And you know, so the best thing to do would maybe be to buy like a few acres of property very cheap, even just 1 or 2 acres, where you could maybe just, and have them in different geographic locations, so they're not in the same region as your primary bug out location, all right? Because if, let's say, your primary bug out location gets affected by a regional threat or a regional disaster, like let's say a hurricane, for example, you want to have an alternate bug out location that's at least 50 to 100 miles away from your primary bug out location. And like I said, that could just be a 1 acre piece of land where you can go and park your vehicle and pitch a tent, or maybe you could buy a used RV and drop an RV there, or one of those steel shipping containers. Or you could even get, if you're really strapped for money, you can get a do-it-yourself shed for like a couple $1,000s, and you can build a big shed on that property. And that shed could be like a little storage area where you could store things, and also act as a little cabin in case your primary location gets compromised. Okay, so you want to have alternate bug out locations. You don't want to just have one bug out location. And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be something deliberate. Like a deliberate site would be, like that shed, for example. That's a deliberate site because you've gone through the trouble of putting things there and building structures there. That's a deliberate alternate bug out location. But you can also research hasty bug out locations. All right, a hasty location could be a piece of state land or a piece of national forest, that you've researched, and you know that that's a good area to go, where maybe you could go there and stay there for a temporary period of time until you find a better, safer location that's more permanent or more deliberate, But in the meantime, a hasty, identifying hasty areas where you can go as that will act as like a temporary bug out shelter or bug out location in case your primary bug out location is compromised is a very good idea. So it's good to do research of that stuff now. Go out there and look for maybe pieces of state property that you think you could go to, or national forests. Pretty much anything that you think could serve as a hasty temporary shelter. All right, because if you have to flee your home on foot, you're basically homeless. Okay, so you need a safe place where you can stay and hunker down until you make your next move. Okay, you need a couple of places that are close to where your primary bug out location is. So this way, if let's say you have your bug out location and it gets compromised and you have to evacuate, you want to have a couple of hasty locations that are within a few miles that you could easily walk to, that have resources nearby, like especially water, and you can walk there if you have to, and you can stay there for a couple of nights, and areas that are safe and not exposed to the weather and not exposed to other people that could be coming by. So an example of hasty areas, like I said, could be national forests or wilderness areas. Could be abandoned buildings, if there's any abandoned buildings in your town, old farmhouses, old industrial areas. As long as they're safe and there's not any chemicals or things like that, you could bring your family in there, and yeah, it's not going to be nice, it's not going to be clean, but it's better than sleeping out in the open somewhere where you have no protection from the weather and no protection from bad guys. Okay, so you should sit down, do some research, try to find some abandoned buildings, abandoned farmhouses, industrial areas, wilderness areas, forested areas, parks, places where that could act as a temporary shelter that's going to provide you protection from the elements and give you some cover and concealment. So this way, if some bad guys are moving through the area, you can hide in that location, and it's going to keep you out of their crosshairs, so to speak. Okay, so the big thing to if you want to prepare for this type of a scenario is, like I said, identify alternate bug out locations. They could either be deliberate or permanent sites. Alternate sites, which is ideal. Having a couple of sites spread across one part of the country is a smart idea if you can afford the money for that. If you can't do that, identify hasty areas in your immediate area where you can take your family and stay there temporarily until you find the next best location that's going to be more permanent, because once you lose your bug out location, you're going to turn into a nomad. So you're going to have to go from one area to the next until you find a more permanent location, okay? That permanent location could be a family member's house, or it could be a stranger's house that lets you in and lets your family in. You know, if you guys think about The Walking Dead, you know, when Rick and his group, they stumble upon that farmer, I forget his name, he ends up losing his leg. He gets bitten by a zombie, and they have to cut his leg off with a hacksaw. I think, and you know, he had like a farm, and Rick and his group were moving through the area, and they asked the farmer if they could stay there. So that would be like a more permanent location, all right? But until you find something like that, you need to have a temporary shelter area, at least immediately. Once you evacuate from your bug out location, you're going to need a place to stay immediately, especially if you have kids, all right? So you need to identify areas around your bug out location that can serve as temporary shelters, hides. You know, like I said, they should provide cover and concealment, and they should also provide shelter from the elements, okay? And again, look into deliberate or permanent alternate sites if you have the money. That's a great idea also. Another thing too is you want to have detailed maps of your surrounding area around your bug out location or your bug in location. You know, and the detailed maps are going to help you in many ways, obviously, but they're going to help you locate areas that could serve as temporary, hasty shelter areas that you can use to bring your family there while you look for that next permanent location, okay? So like I said, you know, abandoned areas of a town that have abandoned buildings, you know, you may be able to see that on the map. You may be able to identify industrial areas of a town on a map, or you may look for forested areas that have good terrain where there may be some caves there that you can spend a couple nights in, or the terrain of the area allows for good security where you can overwatch an area and you have high ground advantage, okay? So detailed maps are important of your immediate area surrounding your bug out location. You know, you want to always have good knowledge of your immediate surroundings of your bug out area in addition to the maps. So you don't just want to buy some maps and throw it in a closet, all right? You want to actually spend some time around your bug out location. Go out there, you know, do recon, drive around the area, see the area, write down potential areas on a notepad that could be hasty temporary shelter areas or hide sites that you can go to, okay? Drive around the area, see which areas could be danger zones, see which areas are safe. Look for areas where there's water and fuel and different material resources, okay? Those are things you should do now, especially if you've gone to the extent of building a bug out location or setting up a bug out location. You know, it doesn't take that much more effort to do some research around that bug out location and you know, really familiarize yourself with the area around your bug out location. Which roads are impassable, which roads are not maintained in the winter, things like that, okay? But most importantly, you're going to be looking for safe zones and potential hasty shelter areas that you can take your family after you have evacuated your bug out location, okay? And these areas should definitely be, like I said, cover, concealment, and shelter from the elements. You also want to have regional and national maps, okay? I always carry a regional map and a national map in my bug out bag, all right? I have a map of the entire United States. I have a map of all of my area of the country, so the northeastern United States. And the reason why is because, you know, if you have to bug out from your bug out location, that means that it may not just be a localized situation, it may be a regional situation, and you may have to flee from the entire region of the country that you live in, either because of the weather or because of something like, you know, let's say there's a nuclear attack and you're trying to get away from the fallout, or if there's a nuclear power plant meltdown and you want to distance yourself from that nuclear power plant, all right, having regional maps is going to help you to navigate after SHTF. You know, good quality, waterproof, durable regional maps. Okay, a U.S. map is important as well, because remember, if you have to bug out from your bug out location and you don't have any alternate sites set up yet, or you haven't done any planning, a map is going to help you tremendously to determine where you're going to go next. You know, what's the next area that you're going to go and bring your family that's going to be safe. Okay, so you definitely want to have regional and national maps. Let's see here, what else? So, you know, one of the most important things that, you know, you have to be adaptable. If you have to bug out from your bug out location, that means you're not going to have a lot of supplies with you. You're just going to have basic supplies. So you're going to have to be very resilient, very resourceful. You're going to have to adapt to different situations and try to, you know, make the best of whatever you come across. So, and that's not something that, you know, you can buy. You know, it's going to take a lot of skills, a lot of willpower, physical fitness, mental toughness, you know, in order to survive a nomadic type of lifestyle after SHTF. You know, if you have no area to live after SHTF, you're gonna need a lot of skills, a lot of willpower, and a lot of mental toughness. You know, so and you have to be adaptable. You're gonna have to be able to improvise. You're gonna have to be able to be resourceful. Okay, so think about these things, and you know, just remember that if you're forced to leave your bug out location after SHTF, you're going to be exposed to a lot of hazards like weather, raiders, bad guys. You know, so stealth is going to be critical. Security and stealth are going to be one of the most important things. And these are things that you can practice now. You know, practice the art of camouflaging. Practice the art of moving around quietly and being able to hide, you know, and moving at night and using shadows and dark areas. You know, practice the art of camouflage and stealth and learn some security tactics. Practice with your firearms, obviously, be a good shooter, but, you know, learn some tactics so when you're moving with your family, you're not going to be exposing your family unnecessarily. You know, I like to always look at The Walking Dead as a good example of bad tactics. When Rick and his group would be walking through an area and they would be marching like single file down like a railroad track, and there's no easy way off the railroad track. That's like a classic military ambush waiting to happen, because you have everybody in a single straight line, which is called an enfilade. And enfilade is the worst position to be in. You don't want to be enfiladed if you're on a defensive situation. You don't want to be enfiladed, because if that happens, then you can be subject to a direct line of fire from your enemy, and they can mow down all your forces, you know, just by directing the line of fire into your column, and they're going to mow everybody down. So you never want to enfilade yourself. You want to learn just basic military tactics of maneuvers and defensive tactics, how to move through areas using wedge formations and fire teams and things like that, so you don't use bad tactics and expose your family and your group to hazards unnecessarily. I highly recommend you guys read about the wedge formation. That's an important you know, marching technique or maneuver. It's very easy to learn. It's the most common tactic used in war today, in our times right now, the wedge formation. You know, be familiar with that. Be familiar with basic military tactics, like I said, so when you're moving about, you know, you're bugging out with your family or your group, you're not enfilading yourself, you're not going into choke points like Rick in The Walking Dead. You know, they went down these railroad tracks, they went down these, you know, highways that have No easy way on and off. You know, stay away from choke points. Avoid likely ambush sites. You know, use stealth to your advantage. Move around at night. You know, use camouflage. So these are things that you're going to have to practice and learn now. So if you ever have to do any of these things and actually bug out from your bug out location during SHTF, your tactics and your skills will be ready to go and squared away. So, you know, you're obviously going to want to stick to less traveled routes and wooded areas for concealment. You want to stay off of main highways. But you also want to be careful on back roads, because rural people will probably have roadblocks and ambushes set up, especially in poverty-stricken rural areas like in coal country USA, like in West Virginia and areas that were affected by the coal industry. You know, a lot of those people are poverty-stricken, and they may set up roadblocks and ambushes to take supplies from preppers and people that are bugging out. So, you know, just because you're on a back road doesn't necessarily mean you're safe. But most of all, the most important thing is you need the right mindset. You need to have willpower, mental toughness. Weapons and gadgets are not going to ensure your survival, okay? You ensure your survival, okay? Not your weapons, not your tools. You are the weapon, okay? So always remember that. Be adaptable, be resilient, be resourceful. You know, be able to improvise to different situations. You need to think on your feet. And most importantly, you need to always have hope and always look for the light at the end of the tunnel. All right, so it may seem like it's a bad situation that you have to flee from your bug out location, but it doesn't mean that it's the end, and it doesn't mean that you're going to die or bad things are going to happen to you, okay? It doesn't mean that it's all over. So you just have to, you know, be resourceful, look at the light at the end of the tunnel. You know, you have that willpower, the right mindset, and you can overcome the struggle and overcome the situation, all right? So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you like this video, or if you want me to do more videos like this, let me know what you think, what your ideas are for how to, you know, prepare yourself to bug out from a bug out location after SHTF. Let me know your thoughts, all right? So thanks for watching, guys. Take care. God bless. And don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere.